Hey everybody, what's up? Today you're getting two for the price of one. That's because yesterday we didn't do a video blog. Sorry about that, guys. Yesterday was just a crazy day for me, and I didn't see any round two. So today we're going to be looking at both day 2 and day 3 of the End of Me devotion plan on the Bible app, and we're going to be looking at John chapter 7. So hopefully you've been catching up. Hopefully you've been doing your reading, because that's would be great. So anyways, let's start with day 2. Day 2 was called Broken to be Whole. And it was some pretty good stuff. So in there, Kyle kind of talks about how essentially we've got to be real with each other. And as believers, we're called to be real with each other. First of all, no one likes a fakie. No one likes to be fake. It's just not good. It's not fun. No one likes to be around a person who's fake. So we're called to be real. So, if we're called to be real, then that means we need to admit something. And that is the simple fact that we are broken people. We're just broken. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that we're broken, sinful, fallen people. That's okay, because there's beauty in that. The beauty of being broken is that means we need to be fixed. And there's only one person that can fix us, and that is Jesus, of course. And see, what's so amazing about Jesus is that he takes our brokenness and makes beautiful things out of it. Gungor has a song called Beautiful Things, talks about this very exact thing, how he makes beautiful things out of us. He makes beautiful things out of us broken, fallen people. And that's exactly what Kyle's talking about in this devotion plan, how we are broken people, and it's okay, because in that brokenness, Jesus makes us whole. And we are made new, and we're made beautiful in our brokenness, because Jesus puts us together, and he puts us together for his glory, and uses our brokenness for his glory. And that's pretty odd if you think, because usually you can't use broken things. Broken things just don't work anymore. But that's not the case with Jesus, because we serve a powerful God, and he takes broken things and uses them for his glory and makes them good again. And so, having said that, that leads us to day 3, which was really good too. It's called Mourn to be Happy, which is kind of ironic. If you hear the word mourn, you think sad, but mourn to be happy? That doesn't really make sense. But think about it this way. There are things that make God sad. Yeah, there are things that make God sad, and that would be our sin. Because sin is us turning our back against God. And obviously, God doesn't want us to do that, because he created us, he loves us, and he wants us to follow him, because he knows that when we follow him, we are being obedient to him, and he wants the best for us. And so therefore, when we sin, we're turning our back on God. It's almost as if we're flipping God off. If you come to our youth group, you'll hear me saying that a lot, because that's something my youth pastor told us, and kind of something that's always stuck in my head about flipping God off. And most people don't want to flip God off, because hello, it's God, and who wants to flip God off? Sin is essentially us flipping God off almost, because we're turning our backs against God. We're saying, God, I don't need you. I can do it my way. I'm going to do it my way, whether you like it or not. And that's what sin is. But in here, Kyle talks about how we should be mournful of those sins. The sins, from the smallest to the biggest, we should be mournful, because, first of all, they go against God's plan for our lives. And so that should break us, because as Christians, as believers, we're called to look like Christ, and we're called to be like Christ. And so if we're called to be like Christ, that means that we are called to be joyful when he is joyful, and to mourn when he mourns. We're called to love the things he loves and hate the things he hates. And so sin, obviously, being one of the things that God hates. And so therefore we should hate sin too. And when we sin, we should mourn. But this mourning, us mourning our sin, allows us to lead to happiness. Mourning our sin leads to happiness, because when we mourn our sin, when we grieve our sin, and we realize how we've messed up and how we've turned our backs against God, it opens our eyes to, one, God's forgiveness, and it also opens our eyes to God's blessings, because we see that we serve a loving God, and he loves to forgive us, and he wants the best for us. And so when we mourn our sin, we not only see how sorry we are towards God, but it also it also opens our eyes to His blessings and His forgiveness, because His forgiveness is one of the greatest blessings ever, because essentially what God does when He forgives us is He wipes our slate clean and our debt is paid for. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than that. Than it's like walking into a courtroom and saying, you were thinking you're going to be charged for these horrible crimes, but then the judge says you've been set free. That's what Jesus did. He walked into the courtroom and He said, "Judge, I'm setting them free. I'm dropping all charges against them." And then we walk into the courtroom expecting to be condemned and sent away to serve our punishment. We walk in, and bada bing, bada boom, we're set free. All charges have been dropped. That's what forgiveness is for us, and that's an amazing fact. So then we get to John chapter 7. There's a lot of good stuff. There's two things that I wanted to point out in John chapter 7. The first one is in verse 19. I really find that verse really interesting, because in there, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and he simply looks at them and He says, "Did not Moses give you the law, yet none of you carries out the law?" And so essentially, what Jesus was saying to them was how they are really bad at keeping the law, but yet they were the ones who are strictly enforcing the law, imposing the law. If you know anything about the Pharisees, you know that these were the people in Jesus' day who were beating people over the head with the law, saying, "You got to follow the law. You got to follow the law. You're a bad person if you don't follow the law." And they were constantly imposing these laws on the people. But the irony of that is that they themselves were not even living up to the law. So, what gave them the right to go around imposing law on everybody else? And that's the irony of that. I think that's really funny, how they themselves, even though they imposed the law on everybody, they themselves can't even live up to the law. I think that kind of just shows our dependence upon God, because it shows that we just can't hack it. We can't hack it. We're broken people, just like day 2 of the End of Me plan shows that we're broken. We can't hack it. We need God. We need Jesus to help us, because we're human and we're going to mess up. And God is our strength, and He helps us through that. And then another thing I really like, which kind of really ties into the name of our youth group. If you remember, our youth group is the watering hole. And verse 37, I believe, Jesus says to the crowd, He says, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink." And it's just like I said in this introduction video to this YouTube page, that a watering hole or a watering fountain is a place where you go when you're thirsty. And there are a lot of people out there who are just simply thirsty spiritually, and we know that Jesus is the only one that can cure us of our spiritual thirst. And so we see from this, Jesus tells the people, when you're thirsty, come see me, because I can cure you of your spiritual thirst. And it kind of once again shows our dependence upon God. We really need Jesus, guys. We just need Jesus. Jesus cures us of our spiritual thirst. He takes care of us because He loves us. He's God. He loves us. And so I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.